Hi, you've got Andrea and Jim with
While we are working.
While we are working. It's our fourth episode.
Our fourth episode,
Our
yeah.
fourth episode.
Episode 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine we've been doing this for a whole 4 episodes?
Whole 4 episodes.
I'm actually kind of proud of us.
Yeah, we're living our dream.
Yeah. And we're watching movies.
That's right.
Yeah. Good escape from just life.
It is. It's good. I think that's one of the things that's the coolest part about movies, right? Is you escape life, you get to go into another, sometimes portal dimension, a lot of times an alternative universe. I'm kind of over that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Exciting. Nice. Yeah.
We chose this week, we didn't announce last week what we're going to watch, so we chose this week to watch a movie called My Old Ass. Right. It came out a while ago, and we both saw it. Yeah. Just the poster, and we're like, oh, this is totally for us. Not really knowing what it had to do with.
Correct, right. Yeah. And my question to you then, to start off, would be, what did it meet your expectation? What did you think the type of movie it was going to be? Because I was expecting something, I think, different.
I was expecting like a complete comedy, like total, just like funny. Yeah. And I think there were funny points, definitely. If you're asking if it met my expectations, and again, we watched this movie together, but we don't talk about it. So like, I don't know if he liked it. I don't know if he hated it. And this is the first time I'll say this. So we watched it. So yeah, as far as meeting my expectations, honestly, it exceeded my expectations.
I think, I definitely was really thinking like funny, really gonna laugh. I was expecting that. I could have done without crying.
Yes, we both definitely. I definitely knew that he found it sad and impactful because he was crying and I was crying.
Right.
So I knew that part.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to cry these days.
It doesn't, but also, well, when we get into the movie, there were a couple of things in there that were so impactful to me. And I almost want to watch it again. Well, okay. How should we start with this?
Well, let's just work our way through kind of how we were starting, because like,
I started not liking it.
I didn't really care for it at the first start, and then what I thought was really interesting is, obviously the 3 women that it starts out with are, at least one of them is a lesbian. You know it up front. She was also wearing flannel, which I thought was really cliche for like a lesbian. Yeah. It was just like, we're playing into this stereotype, sort of, whatever.
Yeah. She also was dressed very Billie Eilish. I like saw Billie Eilish the entire time I was watching her. Like, not only the dress, the talk, that everything. I just saw Billie Eilish, but anyway.
Yeah, so it was good. And I thought it was the premise of, they're doing mushrooms, and it's this whole like
if you haven't seen this movie, what it is, just to like I'll tell you what I think it is, and then maybe you can see if you differ.
All right.
It is about a young woman who is about to leave home. She's 18. She's about to start school or college and leave home for the first time. She's grown up on a very small island, and she does mushrooms with her friends. And what happens is she meets her future self. And her future self tries to help her and protect her. And I think what we find out at the end, at least for me, is that the future self needed a little bit of reminder that it's okay to be young and stupid and reckless and follow your feelings.
Right, because I think, could you imagine going back in time and telling your old self what has happened in your life? Like, I kind of thought that was going to be sort of the premise, but like, would you try to avoid it? Like, when avoiding it, would it change your, you know what I mean? Because like, could you imagine us going back and explaining to your own self, like, 9/11 is going to happen, a world pandemic is going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, you would want to prepare yourself to be like, oh my gosh, when you hear about people stocking up on toilet paper, do it.
And like right before, February 2020, maybe think about moving to an exotic island, because you're going to be stuck there for a long time, and you could like just sunbathe every day.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
It's so interesting because this totally brings up another thing, but if you could go back in time, so she warns her younger self against falling in love with somebody.
Right.
If you could go back in time, is there anything you would tell your younger self, like, just do not do this?
I don't think necessarily do not do. I think I would tell my younger self to be prepared. Like, not everything is going to go the way that you think it's going to go. and that's okay. Just know that you'll make it through it. Because I think a lot of things like, I mean, it would be nice to avoid the pain. And I think that was one of the parts of this was like trying to avoid this pain of sorts where she tells her, stay away from Chad or whatever,
And Chad, by the way, is the person that she falls in love with who the older self knows is going to die prematurely.
Just put it all out there and explain the whole thing to him now.
I mean, the hope is that you're listening to this after you've watched the movie.
Hopefully after you've watched it. But
wait, can we actually first go back a second? What would you give this thumbs up wise?
I think it was a good thumbs up.
I'd give it a thumbs up too. So like if you haven't watched it, watch it. I think it's worth it.
I definitely think it is worth it. But yeah, I wouldn't, because I think a lot of it is about what's happened to you, right? And like whatever has happened in life kind of brings you to where you are now. So I think if you say, oh, I avoided this, well, does that mean if I didn't have that, I would avoid this? You know what I mean? Like, what are the ramifications of that?
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking of, because one of the things she asked herself was like, tell me who to invest in. And would you tell your old self, yes, put all this money in Google, right? Like, if you could go back in time and tell your younger self, you know what? Stay away from credit cards. Don't use credit cards. Make sure you manage yourself. And if you hear of a company called Google,
invest all your money.
Invest as much as you can, or Bitcoin.
Yeah,
or buy Amazon, every Bitcoin you can get. You know what I mean? Like
the guy who starts the bookstore online, invest all your money in it.
Right. Like if you look at those things, I mean, wouldn't that be the temptation to be like, tell yourself? And this lady was just like, nah.
Well, because then you'd end up in a totally different place. If,
right. Right. But so I think that's the same thing though, as avoiding some of the things that those hardships, the sad parts, spend as much time with this and that,
Can we run through some of our notes? Because we always take notes, and I think this is like the fun part of this.
Yeah.
So when it started, I will say I was not a fan of the movie. It started and I was like, why are they in this speedboat having this long montage for so long?
Right.
Like if this movie is going to be a speedboat montage, which I have to say on numerous times it was.
Right.
There were numerous montages on the speedboat.
Yeah.
I could have done without that. I thought that was annoying.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it, and I think when she started having her trip too, right? When they started doing the mushrooms, it was like the other two girls just kind of disappeared.
Well, that happens on mushrooms.
I get it. I get that. But I'm just saying, like, we just focused on the one girl and her experience, and I get it. It was about her, but I was also just like, she's having this conversation with her old self, right? Which she can see. We've established later in the show that other people can see her too, right? She was there, but I was also like, why didn't that other person be like, who are these two? Where did they go, right? And then later on, at one point, you see them again, and they're in the background, and they're, the one girl's doing some dance thing, and the other girl's got a bunny rabbit that she found from who knows where.
Which, by the way, no stray bunny rabbit. Oh, you know what? It probably wasn't. It was probably like a leaf, and she was just high on mushrooms and cutting a leaf and thinking it was a bunny.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you would think that this other person would have been like, oh my gosh. You know what I mean? Like, it was just weird. All of a sudden, they were gone. And it focused on just them. Well,
that's really what they had to do to make the story happen, so just buy it.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. I get it. But I'd like to live in reality.
I will say, my first few notes were, why were they having such a long speedboat and camp setup montage? Did Aubrey Plaza write this because it sounds like her voice? I'm 10 minutes in, and I'd like to turn this off.
Right.
We should have watched The Coal Miner's Daughter, I think.
That was my pick. Come on. That's really good.
I feel like this could have been a really short film. So that was like my first 15 minutes in. We're pretty, I'm not into this. Like, it's bad.
When did it change for you?
Oh my God, wait. I have to tell you one other note that I thought was insane. So she just accepted that she met her future self, and like was talking to her on the phone. I gotta be honest. If that happened to me on my mushroom trip, I would assume that the mushrooms brought out an underlying mental illness, and now I was just fucked for life. Like, now I was always just going to be insane. Like, because I wouldn't believe that actually happened. I'd be like, no, clearly now I am a Looney Tune. And I guess I always had this, like, schizophrenia or whatever living in me, and now it's out. So now...
Right.
What do I do? Yeah. I don't think I would have been like, oh, cool, older me. Like, great.